It is very important, irrespective of our belief systems and all the narrow boundaries which we have created over the time. It is very important to feel proud of our culture. Now, if you ask any American, not a Native American, by the way, you will see that they are very proud of their own culture. Now, unfortunately, most of us lack that sense of pride in our culture, and there are various factors behind that. This is my honest effort to make you understand that why we should be proud of our own culture. Namaskar, welcome to the Sanatan Theory. Every time after getting promoted to a new class, I used to be very excited. I flipped through the pages of the brand new textbooks. Then I was in class 5. I got my first history textbook in my hand, and that fairy tale was over. The first chapter was European Renaissance, and Renaissance is that word which I was hardly able to pronounce. And I still remember that my history teacher deducted 1 mark for spelling mistake. And later on I realized that what bullshits I was learning in all those days, thanks to our bloody education system. In the 14th century, these Europeans used to believe that the earth is flat. Now this Portuguese explorer Magellan set off for a voyage around the earth to prove everyone wrong, which you all have studied in our history textbooks. Now coming to the millennia old Bharat, look at this shloka from Rig Veda, some 6000 years old, which says that Madhya Samastandasya Bhugala Vyamani Tishtati, which means in the midst of the universe, the spherical earth stays. Just see, our knowledge was so profound yet cryptic. It was a famous debate among the philosophers in Europe whether the sun revolves around the earth or the other way around. Here in Rig Veda, it is said in a beautiful shloka some 6000 years ago, which starts with Savida, which means the sun god. It says that the sun has tied earth and other planets through attraction. See, we had the knowledge of attraction, and moves them around itself as if a trainer moves newly trained horses around itself holding their reins. We often refer our earth as Jagat, which means what? Jiski gati hai wo, which means that which moves. So we knew that our earth is round, it is moving, and this was some thousands of years ago. Now coming to Europe, they started believing to this theory only after seeing photographs from the Apollo, the spaceship. So most of the people in Galileo's time, they believed that Earth was the center of the universe and the sun and other planets used to revolve around it. Now Galileo opposed to this theory, and which was against the contemporary Catholics. So the church and the popes, they accused him of being heretic, and he was harassed badly in all possible ways. Even today, Ayurveda is one of the most prominent medical systems. There is a vast formulation of medicines which is even more than the modern medical system has. As we all know about the 5 basic elements or Panchabhuta, and most of us, we have heard about these things. So these 5 elements which comprises of earth, water, fire, air and ether or space, right? So which means whatever we can perceive in our physicality is made up of these 5 things or 5 qualities, right? So which is also true with our body. So what Ayurveda do is they clubbed 2 of them and they're making one, like here air and ether, which makes Vata. Water and earth means the which is Kapha, and from water and fire we are getting Pitta. So these are the 3 qualities, Vata, Pitta and Kapha. So these are the 3 qualities which is in our body, and there should be a healthy balance among these 3 qualities of Vata, Pitta and Kapha. And if the balance is healthy, that means the person is fit. And if there are some disturbances within these 3, then the person must be suffering from some diseases. So our Ayurveda, it was very much rooted from the very much source of creation, from the very much. So we see whatever you see in the 5 elements, 5 basic elements, it is starting from there. So that was the profoundness of Ayurveda. Even today, you can see many foreigners, they come to Kerala just to undergo Ayurvedic treatment, and which is considered one of the best for healing all types of chronic ailments. So there are mainly two kinds of diseases. One which is attacking us from outside, like you can see the coronavirus and all kinds of viral infection, which is coming from outside. And most of the disease which are chronic in nature, they are originating from inside our body. And for that, for this chronic ailments, Ayurveda is considered the best. We listened a lot about Shreshtha. Many people say that he performed the first surgery in the world, but Ayurvedic surgeries are prevalent before Shreshtha came. Now, we also had this knowledge of fixing amputated nose, and there is a very detailed description in the Vedic literatures. So you are also expert in plastic surgery also, right? So now here is this interesting story, which is during the Anglo-Mysore War of 1794. An officer of the English army was imprisoned by Tipu Sultan. His nose was amputated, and later on this person took his amputated nose in his hand and ran out of Tipu's territory and visited a Vaidya. He stayed there for a few days and everything was fixed. Now this technique was continued for centuries, and several families of Vaidyas and Nayas, they practiced in the various parts of the country, in Maharashtra, Nepal, and extensively in Kangra of Himachal Pradesh. I personally have been to Kangra. There is all tea gardens, and if you see tea gardens, that means that place was extensively exploited by the Britishers. So here Vaidyas are the caste of doctors, Ayurvedic doctors, and Nayas are the barbers. So now these Britishers realized the profoundness of our culture. They realized even if you loot them, they are not going to be poor. Earlier I said that these Nayas are very good in surgeries. Now these Britishers, they started the bloody game of divide and rule, and today if you see, the Nayas are regarded as a backward caste in our country. So this is how they started their bloody game of divide and rule and broke our cultural and spiritual backbone. Even today we don't have this phenomenal technology of preparing rust-free iron. The iron pillar in Delhi is a structure that was constructed by Chandragupta II, which is standing for more than 1500 years, rust-free, withstanding heavy pollution of Delhi. And this is located in the Qutub Minar complex, and we all know the bloody history of Qutub Minar. Someday I will make another video on that. So there is another rust-free iron here on the right side, you can see, in Kollur, Karnataka, and this was made by the tribals of a village to greet Adi Shankaracharya, and this was some 2300 years ago. Notice one thing, the technology of preparing rust-free iron was not limited to a certain section of the society. Even a tribal aborigine had the knowledge of preparing this kind of rust-free iron. Phenomenal, isn't it? We kept the zinc extraction process secret from the world for 4000 years. Later on, a Chinese stole from us, and then a British guy, William Champion, stole from the Chinese. Wait. You are also expert in encryption. This is Katapayadi Sankhya or Katapayadi system. You can search in the internet. So here we assigned a number to certain alphabets. You see here, number 1 to 9 and 0 we have assigned to certain alphabets written in Devanagari script, and other scripts are also there. So now look at this beautiful shloka which starts with Gopi Bhagya Madhuvrata, and if you read this you will get to know that it is praising Krishna, Lord Krishna. So later on, when we decrypt this shloka using Katapayadi system, we get a series of numbers. We are getting a series of numbers, and you must be knowing this, and which turns out to be the value of pi, and it is correct up to 31 places. See, just imagine a slok which is grammatically correct, which is praising Krishna, in turn showing the value of pi. And this system is used to encrypt many values in mathematics and astronomy. According to Vishnu Puran, there are 10 avatars of Vishnu. Here in this image, you can spot a direct correlation with Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. Here you see life started in water, Matsya avatar, fish. Yes. Then amphibian, Kurma avatar. From water, from aquatic to amphibian, now it's mammal, Vara avatar, which resembles a wild boar. And if you know about boar, if you try to kill them, they won't die easily. They are too much attached to the earth. And you spot this thing here. Even then we were aware of the shape of the earth. Next comes Narasimha avatar, half man, half animal. Nara means man and Simha means animal. See, partially bipedal primates, half man, half animal. Next is Vaman avatar, dwarf. Physically not so strong, but they are mentally they were wise. Next in the series, Parashuram avatar, a man with primitive weapons. So here, see, Homo erectus, man with axe. Next, Maryada Purushottam Rama, the perfect man, the Homo sapiens. And next in the series we have Krishna, the playful yogi. Then Gautama the Buddha, the meditative yogi. Another one is yet about to come. So isn't it great how our ancestors studied the theory of evolution, and each and every avatar is interrelated and it resembles Darwin's theory of evolution. Some 1000 years ago, we had the more percentage of total GDP than what United States of America has today. We are economically and spiritually the most prosperous nation. Here on this land, Narayana and Lakshmi were married. Narayana, who is believed to be the god of knowledge, and Lakshmi, all know, goddess of wealth, were married to each other. We are spiritually rich. It doesn't mean that Bharat was poor. In fact, we are the richest and the most prosperous nation of that time. Even today, you can see that we have lots of gold in our country after so much of loot. Then we had the highest proportion of gold reserves some thousands of years ago. We had the highest proportion of gold reserves, which we accumulated through trade surplus, because we don't have enough gold mines in our country. Because we used to produce some of the finest goods, some of the finest finished products and technologies we used to produce here. And Southeast Asians, they were highly influenced by our culture. They used to keep similar names, just like us. Just like many of us, they prefer to anglicize their names. Just like that, they used to keep names similar to our culture. Even today, the countries like Malaysia, Indonesia are Islamic country, but they have a great craze towards Mahabharata and Ramayana. Look at this image, Garuda, Indonesia, which is the flag carrier of Indonesia, and the name Garuda, which is inspired from, you all know, Ramayana. And here on my right side of this slide, you see here, this is the logo of a German airline, Lufthansa. Lufthansa, it is a Sanskrit word, while Luft means vanish and Hansa means swan. We calculated the speed of light accurately without using any sort of physical instruments. In Surya Siddhanta, a detailed explanation about this is given. You can read that book, it is available on the internet. I see the calculation, and if we convert the units to the modern one, you can see that it actually resembles the exact value. We are expert in everything, and like this I can go on and on. What was the reason behind that? It is because of our spirituality, and which is very much different from today's dogmatic practices. There was a time when we had the highest proportion of gold. Mahmud of Ghazni had to come all the way from Afghanistan 17 times to loot Somnath temple. The 600 years of Islamic invasion and 300 years of British, they have looted enough. But still something is there in our culture which is not material in nature, which is our spiritual and educational backbone. Now you can pause this video and read this thing, what this British parliamentarian, what he addressed in 1835, what he said. There is no thief, no beggar, and people with such values and caliber. See, I do not think we would ever conquer this country unless we break the very backbone of this nation, which is our spiritual and cultural heritage. Therefore, I propose that we replace our old and ancient educational system, our culture, for it if the Indians think that all that is foreign and English is good. That is what happened today. Just see this thing. In this roundtable meeting held in the year 1931, you can see Mahatma Gandhi sitting here and there are other British parliamentarians, and where Gandhiji said that the beautiful tree of education was cut down by you British. Therefore, today India is far more illiterate than it was 100 years ago. If you noticed in the previous slide, Macaulay delivered his speech in the year 1835. So it is roughly 100 years. Now the British parliamentarian, he claimed that no, we educated the masses, you should take back your statement. But the debate stopped because the agenda of the meeting was something else. Later on, a disciple of Gandhi, whose name is Sri Dharampal, who published one book, The Beautiful Tree, where he vividly described that how the British destroyed our education system. So by 1820s, the British had already destroyed the financial resources that supported our educational system. That is, the British, the East India Company, they took over the control of the temples of our temple, because our temples were rich and our temples used to coordinate all the educational processes in the villages. They used to coordinate everything. They took over the controls of the temples, and the same thing unfortunately our governments are also doing today, because all the temples are in the control of the governments. Even today it is existing. Now the British, they started one survey to find the intricacies of this educational system. So the survey was ordered in the year 1822 and it was conducted by the district collectors. In the survey, it was found that the Bengal presidency, which had 1 lakh village schools, in the Madras there was not a single village without a school, and in the Bombay presidency, if the village population was near 100, the village had a school. Because in the British Raj, our country was divided into 3 subdivisions. One is Bengal presidency, Bombay presidency and Madras presidency. So the survey was conducted in these 3 regions and the results are this. And the ratio of number of schools to the number of students was even better than what today we have. And another survey was done where it was found that the students of all castes were there in the schools. There are no discrimination at all. The teachers were also from various castes. The Brahmins accounted 7% to 40% of the teachers, and the rest of the teachers in any district came from other castes. Further, all the children had their education in their mother tongue. Just look at the profoundness of that system we had and today. Why do we need to study history? Because we need to know our past so that our self-esteem becomes high. We should be proud of our culture. Here our history textbook starts with European Renaissance, and then it is all about how invaders came and looted us. 600 years of Islamic invasion and 300 years of British. The textbook authors like Romila Thapar doesn't even know Sanskrit, who is the NCERT author of medieval and ancient history of Bharat. Meanwhile, some people were busy in creating Arya-Dravid theories for getting political mileage. We are going to celebrate our 75th year of independence, and the dream of Bhavya Bharat is still burning within us. The beauty of Bharat is that we are together not because of oneness, but the variety we have. In terms of ideology, faith, political inclination, whatever, we are the most colorful nation. We focused a lot in terms of economy, building infrastructure, and fighting poverty. But even after independence, we followed the same Machiavellian principle in our education. We used to develop the finest of the technologies that nobody in the world had. Today, our so-called universities hardly have any industry collaboration because it will hurt the socialist image. Frankly speaking, our minds are not creative enough even after passing out through this rigorous education system designed for producing clerks. Most of the bureaucrats in this country prefer stagnation over action. Be it Aadhar or Green Revolution or White Revolution, it was led by a non-bureaucrat. We should understand that the same ICS exam is recent as UPSC or IAS. The same system which British created, which is producing only laggards and laggards. So there has been many wrongdoings, but this is the time we should go full throttle to end suffering of the people who struggle to get a stomachful meal. A nation which wants to forget about itself and imitate others is on the path of self-destruction. And if we truly do not want to weaken ourselves as a nation, we need to extricate our educational system out of its Machiavellian traits and obtain a fresh, untainted understanding of our ideals. For this have held us together as a nation for nearly 10,000 years. So let's make a Bhavya Bharat. Let's make a Bhavya Bharat. Thank you for listening to me.